Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Kansas Speedway for tonight's Kansas 150, the debut race here in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. My name is Robert Hill Jr. Joining me tonight is Wyatt Knadle and Tate Lytle. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Hey, we're doing great.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I'm excited to see this new series get underway tonight.
Absolutely. We have a pretty strong field here tonight. 33 cars are going to attempt this first race. As we take a quick look at the race formatting, it'll be 100 laps here tonight, no stages, and we have 4 sets of tires. So that's 3 in the pits and 1 on the car to start. And with qualifying just about wrapping up here, it is Trey Eidson currently on the pole. Eidson, a newcomer here in Elite, of course, as are most of these guys, aside from guys like Chris Wright that want to get some extra laps here. But very excited to have everyone here tonight as we'll take a look at our grid. Qualifying just wrapped up there. Like I mentioned, Trey Eidson on pole. Chris Wright starting on the outside pole with Zach Roethlisberger and Ethan Stanley there, row number 2. Seth Rawls and Jess Story. 1 returning driver, 1 newcomer here in Elite. Just behind them, Gilberto Javier Gomera, Jay Kaner, Jesse Rasmus, and William White rounding out the top 10 with Daniel Martinez, Corey Blevins right there, row number 6. Hunter Smith, Mark Murphy, row number 7. With Rory Collins, Ty McIntosh, Jordan Owens, Michael Hosack, Craig Arvanites, and Brent Jones rounding out the top 20. With Brandon Key, Brandon Ultra, row of Brandons there. David Dunwoody, Ray Bracey, Ethan Harrison, Clay Cantrell, Stephen Hassett, Kane Lee, Nathaniel Cherry, Robert Smith, Christopher Pfaff, David Carpenter, and Mark Keeler rounding out the 33-car field here tonight at Kansas. Guys, obviously a new series here in Elite. It's great to have something a little bit different. I believe the league did run ARCA cars previously, but it's been a little while since that took place. So how do you guys think tonight's going to go, and what's your outlook for this series? 10 races.
I think it'll be interesting to see who kind of asserts themselves at the top of the sheets here. I look for guys like Trey Eidson and Zach Roethlisberger, newcomers to Elite, but guys that have had success in other leagues on the service to be toward the top of the timesheets as they are right now. And then returners like Chris Wright and Ethan Stanley, Daniel Martinez, Hunter Smith, and quite a few others that I think are going to have a good shot at the championship in this ARCA series. But I think it'll be nice for those guys to kind of get the Tyler Fodeys and the R.C. Edersons of the world out of the way and kind of see how they do racing for these wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there, Tate Lytle. Wyatt, what are your thoughts here as the pace car has led these guys on to the racetrack?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting to see, like Tate was saying, we've got a lot of guys that are new and a lot of their current kind of mixing in here without those championship contenders. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think we're going to see a lot of close racing. I think it's going to be a little more aggressive than we usually would see in the other series. And hopefully they can keep the cars clean, because if not, we're going to be here for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing about these developmental type series. You will see a little bit more beating and banging as guys try to get used to each other. But I think we have a great crop of drivers here that are going to put on a great show as the pace car is off. We're going to hand it down to Barney the Flagman to get us going here. Race number 1 of the Pit Pass Network ARCA series is underway here. The Kansas 150. It's Trey Eidson, Chris Wright on the front row. Right behind them, we do see Zach Roethlisberger and Ethan Stanley as Seth Rawls looks to the inside of Jess Story there in row number 3. Look at these guys already running different lines. You see Ethan Stanley there in the 91 machine right behind Chris Wright. Chris Wright looking to the bottom of Zach Roethlisberger there. Seth Rawls on the high side. Seth Rawls, a guy that was one of my teammates in a few leagues. I know he's found his way into quite a few different leagues over the past couple of seasons, but he's always one to watch as we see him running the wall here, drop back one spot. He's currently running 6th with Jesse Rasmus right behind him. But right up front there, that is Trey Eidson and Zach Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger, another one of my former teammates. I got a lot of former teammates in this field, as Roethlisberger's looking to the inside of Eidson. But lap number 2 here. Guys, why don't we go ahead and make some race picks if we can. Obviously, we don't know a lot of these guys, but let's still throw something out there. And we'll start with Tate Lytle. Tate, who do you think has the upper hand here tonight?
He's kind of low-hanging fruit here, but I'll take Trey Eidson. I haven't raced with him a ton, but the few times that I have raced with him, he's been pretty tough to beat. I think he's going to have the upper hand here, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of lines these guys start running. They all seem to be running the top right now, but I don't know. Chris Wright might be onto something tire save-wise on the bottom. But what are you thinking there, Wyatt?
You know, I'm looking at it, and he started outside the top 10, but I think Dan Martinez, you know, current driver in Elite, and I've seen him race these cars, and he's really good racing these ARCA cars. So if he can manage his tires and this thing gets a long run, it might get interesting for him running currently in 9th place.
Yeah, definitely good picks there with Eidson and Martinez, both very strong competitors here in the iRacing world. I'm looking in that middle part of the top 5. That's where you're going to find Jay Kaner. Jay has shown his strength in all the Elite Series so far since joining, and I think he's going to have an opportunity in this series without the Tate Lytles, without the Tyler Fodes, as he's getting all over Seth Rawls there. But I think having that upper hand, not having the top competitors here in Elite around him, is really going to give Jay an opportunity to shine, and I think he's hoping for much of the same. As we do see Jay Kaner and Seth Rawls there side by side, just ahead of them as well, Ethan Stanley and Zach Roethlisberger battling for position. Stanley on the bottom, Roethlisberger on the high side there. As Ethan Stanley looks to clear him, he will not, as that number 93 machine having the upper hand on that high side, able to maintain a little bit more momentum and not have to check up as much as the 91 there on the bottom.
Yeah, the setup must be pretty tight, because normally with these cars, as long as there's a little give in the setup, they're able to run multiple lanes, and it looks like the top line is going to be pretty dominant tonight. It doesn't look like they can do a whole lot with the bottom. We saw Chris Wright go to the bottom there early, and I kind of mentioned it, but he's a second and a half off the lead down in 6th place. He started the outside of the front row. He seems pretty committed to the bottom, so I will be interested to see kind of what that commitment brings for him later in the race. But it doesn't look like the track's widening out a whole lot yet. Hopefully it will, but the top side seems to be fairly dominant at the moment, as Trey Eidson extends his lead by another 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, Eidson looking pretty strong there.
Yeah, Eidson, he's a 6,500 iRating guy. Probably, if he elects to, going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Xfinity and Cup Series in the coming season. But we'll see where he puts himself series-wise after this ARCA series.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about this ARCA series, is it does give guys the opportunity that haven't really raced an Elite before to get their name out there and get that approval to move up and run the higher series. You know, Elite's kind of changing from being, you could just hop in and go for a run in one of the top series, to having to work your way up through the development ladder now just a little bit. If you do well here in ARCA, you can get approval to run in one of the top 3 series coming up here in just a few weeks. As we do see Daniel Martinez, Wyatt, that was your pick right here. He's working on that bottom side, going past Jesse Rasmus. Daniel Martinez up to P7, as I do see Gilberto Javier falling back here. He's in the outside wall. He looks like he picked that up quite a bit.
Yeah, that wall in these cars, once you tap it, it sucks you in, and it obviously slowed Gilberto down quite a lot, and that's the risky take run on the outside line. It's obviously faster, but if you just nick that wall, it's going to cost you a lot of time. And yet Daniel Martinez gets by Jesse Rasmus for 7th place, running that bottom line. Rasmus looked very loose on the outside, so I'll be interested to see how that develops as Gilberto's in the wall again off of 2.
Yeah, Gilberto struggling a little bit there. Once you get
Let's leave poor Gilberto alone.
Absolutely. Once you get a little bit of damage there on those cars, it can definitely make it tough to really be able to do much. So definitely unfortunate for Gilberto, but he will try to get that car fixed up, and I know he'll be back next week. Trey Eidson does continue to lead, but Zach Roethlisberger has taken a little bit of time off of that lead and is running down our race leader.
Yeah, he took 2/10 off that last lap. Another thing to mention, Daniel Martinez must have also caught the wall because he's back down in 14th now. So he lost 6 or 7 spots. He must have got himself in the wall, overcooked it into 1 or 3, and lost a solid amount of time there.
Yeah,
good looking Pepsi machine there.
Definitely a good looking machine. I believe that's a JD Designs machine there. Actually our race control here tonight, Jonathan Cutlip, that is one of his paint schemes, and I understand that his mother is tuning into the race here tonight. So hello to you on behalf of us here at Elite Racing Network. As who is that right ahead of Daniel Martinez? That's Craig Arvanites. Looks like he got a piece of the wall. These guys seem to be on edge at this point. Ethan Harrison just got a piece of the wall as well. So we see David Dunwoody there. Oh, Brent Jones. I forgot he was even here. Running a new number, not the 89 this year, number 51 on board that machine for Mr. Brent Jones.
This pack here is looking really fun. Now that we're about 15 laps into this race here so far, it's going to be really interesting to see how these tires do wear. As you see, cars are starting to shift around, going back up and back down, and a lot of people run in the middle now through the corners.
Tires are wearing a lot. I can just see it by the way everyone's sliding around. It's going to really prefer those tire save strategies that I think Chris Wright and Zach Roethlisberger were deploying those first couple laps. As Roethlisberger takes another 2/10 off of Trey Edson's lead, and he's pretty much right up on the rear spoiler of the 97 machine.
As we ride on board with the number 93 machine of Roethlisberger, you can see that he is bit by bit cutting into the lead that Eidson did develop earlier on. Just a quick note, Ethan Harrison and Jordan Owens have both come down pit road here. So a couple guys have made their way to pit road as we see Roethlisberger now on the inside of Eidson and making a move for the race lead.
He's clear. We'll see if he's able to hold that down the backstretch, but I was wrong on my previous assumption of the stability of the car. It looks like he was pretty loose going through 3 and 4 there, having to open up the wheel quite a bit to keep her going straight. And he's the fastest car on the track, so you can imagine what that looks like for the rest of the field right now.
Absolutely. As earlier on we did see Daniel Martinez. He had a bit of an issue with the looseness, as we do see Craig Arvanites and William White here battling for position. 2 petty numbers there, 43, 44, just ahead of them. That's the 29 of Jess Story. We do have an update from race control. There was some lap 10 contact between the 28 and the 33. Tally was given to the number 28 machine. That is David Dunwoody in the 28, Nathaniel Cherry in the 33, showing 13 tonight, but we'll get that fixed up for next week. Obviously, race 1 here. Always some hiccups, but we'll get that sorted.
You know, in a really good green flag run to start the race, we're seeing a lot of single car right now, but you know, these tires are very worn. As Tate mentioned, it looks like they're starting to slide everywhere, and we're seeing guys make mistakes.
In the wall there.
Exactly my point right there. You know, guys in the wall. Arbonites is very slow going into the corner there.
Yeah, the one thing about these tracks is you get a bit of the outside wall, and it just wants to clutch on. You hold on, and you're just kind of stuck there until it decides that it's done with you and spits you back out. But Arvanites has been able to gather it up here, but he's dropped a fair bit now getting passed by Brent Jones and Steven Hassett. As Nathaniel Cherry, we just mentioned him as being involved in a lap 10 incident. He is right in the picture now as well.
You mentioned Brent Jones. He's doing a really good job working his way up into the top 15, right behind Michael Hossack and William White. Daniel Martinez is starting the battle back up into the top 12. And we see our leader starting to just slowly pull away.
Yeah, as you do see Zach Roethlisberger now 10th and a half ahead of Trey Eidson. You have to wonder if maybe Eidson pushed it a little too hard on that opening run, or if the 93 really just does have that much pace. I know Zach Roethlisberger is a very quick driver. I've raced with him quite a bit, and I've seen what he can do. Is actually Eidson now coming back right up to the rear bumper of the number 93 machine of Zachary Roethlisberger here. You can see the nose of that Mountain Dew 97 with Eidson behind the wheel trying to make a charge here. Just behind them, though, just under a second, is Seth Rawls. Rawls has been able to work his way up a little bit there. Started in 5th, now up to 3rd. I know he was really excited for this race here tonight. I opened up my phone and I had probably 3 or 4 Snapchat messages from Seth Rawls just showing me his face with a big old smile. So I think Seth Rawls is excited to be here tonight.
Oh, you love to see that.
Absolutely.
Man, we have a battle going on right there around 15th position. We've got 5 cars sitting nose to tail, side by side. And it doesn't look, I mean, it's been going like this for quite a few laps now. I've been monitoring it. I don't think it's going to stop.
As you can see here, we do have the 45 of Brandon Ultra there in the American scheme right there on the outside. Ty McIntosh, Stephen Hassett there as well in the 65. Craig Arvanites, Nathaniel Cherry right there. Just behind them, Caden Lee, that's a cool name, I like that. And Clay Cantrell just behind them as well. Clay, another guy that we've raced with quite a bit and have been able to see what he can do. And he's slowly working his way up, but biggest mover so far in this race, Nathaniel Cherry in the number 33/13 here tonight, up 10 spots from the 29th position. Back up front, though, it is Zachary Roethlisberger ahead of Trey Eidson. 0.2 of a second is the gap between those two. We're a quarter of the way down in this event. We have not yet seen a caution. We've seen some incidents, of course, where there was a couple cars on the wall and an incident as well in lap 10, contact between 28 and 33. But these guys are keeping us green, keeping us rolling. So thank you to those guys for that. As we're actually going to jump back to that pack, Wyatt, that you had mentioned, because these guys are just battling really close, really hard. And if we're going to see any sort of incident, I think it may be around here.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, they're all nose to tail, and these cars definitely can't be handling it. Oh, with contact. 44 is up in the wall.
Clay Cantrell into Craig Arvanites. Great save by Arvanites.
No caution.
He's not going to save it.
That
may stay green.
You know what? It will stay green. He's hurt. He is definitely hurting there. As we'll take a look back on the Whiskey Cast replay. I apologize. Let's pull that up again. Mark J. Rubilas photography replay. Not Whiskey Cast anymore.
New season.
As we see the number 8 machine of Clay Cantrell up behind the 44 of Arvanites here. You see that Dale Earnhardt Jr. scheme. Yeah, he just gets in a little too hot into the back of Arvanites. Arvanites does a nice job, though, of keeping it in one piece. I mean, he had himself a ride here. As you see, he gets into the outside wall, but he keeps it straight, keeps us under the green flag.
Boys, we have a battle for the lead right now. Nose to tail. This is good to watch here.
As you can see, Zach Roethlisberger is continuing to lead, but here comes Trey Eidson to the inside, looking to make a move. He's just going to stay in line, though.
That's the problem with Kansas. There's not a whole lot of places to go unless that bottom is working, and obviously it is not. So, I mean, Trey is kind of in a spot to where he either sends a slider down the bottom of 3 and 4, or he just kind of hangs out behind Zach until they pit in hopes that he gets the upper hand up pit road and is able to get back by him. Looks like the middle of the run, Zach has a really good car, but Trey's bringing it back here toward the end of the run.
Yeah, Trey looking fairly strong here. Like you mentioned, it's interesting to see the difference of these guys on the short run to the long run, and here we go from race control. Lap 27 contact between the 22 and 44. Tally on the 22 of Cantrell. So far 2 tallies issued in this race. As Daniel Martinez.
Not any cautions.
What was that, Tate?
So at least we haven't had any cautions, but Dan's bringing it down lap 30. So he's playing must be a 2-stop race, because if it's a 1-stop race, I'd be kind of mad at Dan if he's pitting, if he's thinking it's going to be better to 2-stop. Never better to 2-stop, always 1-stop if you can. So he's probably thinking pit here and then pit again lap 65 or so and hope that that's the winning strategy. But he kind of hurt himself with that contact with the wall earlier in the race. Kind of put himself back a ways in track position, which is
Roethlisberger in the wall.
Oh, obviously very important. That's all Trey needed.
Yeah, and Dan does not want to see that.
Very slight contact to the outside wall, but like you mentioned, that was all Trey Eidson needed to be able to make that move on Roethlisberger for the race lead. I don't think it really did any damage at all. Probably scrubbed a little bit of paint off the side of that car, but that's about it. As Roethlisberger looking to the inside once again, like he's just running a little bit of a lower line than Eidson, trying to get a bit of a run, but Eidson will assume the race lead once again.
Yeah, Chris Wright's trying to get by Seth Rawls back here for third too. I had kind of mentioned him running the bottom earlier in the run, and maybe that there was something to be said for running the bottom, because he seems to have the best tires out of this group. He can't quite get the run on Seth to get by him, but he's getting underneath him every corner, so it's a matter of time. Hopefully he can clear him soon and go have a run at these top 2.
As you can see on board that number 42 machine, he is sponsored by Pit Pass Network, that is the presenting sponsor of the ARCA series here. Chris Wright, one of the journalists over there. So great to see some representation in the field from Pit Pass Network. But yeah, Chris Wright running that bottom line. Ethan Stanley running it as well. I think seeing that Chris has been able to do a good job down there. Ethan's trying to do much of the same, but Seth Rawls is tough to pass.
Yeah, Chris, I've been racing with Chris since probably right during COVID, early part of 2020. And this used to be Chris. He used to save his tires and go get you at the end of the run. And he kind of, over the last few months, I felt like he kind of lost his identity, and hopefully this will be a good starting point for him to regain that and become a contender up at the front of the pack every week again.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that this series will offer. Again, a lot of the top guys from the Elite Cup Series not able to run in this series right now. So it gives guys like Chris Wright the opportunity to gain a little bit of confidence back and try to work their way back up to where they used to be or where they want to be. And
right.
It's an opportunity here to see what Chris can do before we get going with the Cup Series in a few weeks at Daytona, which seems like we just ended that season, but almost time to get going again.
We did just end that season, yeah. Off seasons don't take long, but we all do this for fun. It's a hobby. You know, hopefully no one's taking it quite that seriously, but it's always a good time, and it's a lot more fun when you win. As you see these two, they can't get away from each other. I thought Trey would pull away once he got by Zach, but they seem to be very, very equal on pace right now.
Yeah, there's not really too much of a difference here. We're going to go ahead and pull up the drivers' lap times here, see if we can get a bit of information. That is not the box we were looking for there.
Let's see, that time by Eidson ran a 33.70 to Zach's 33.70. Zach got him by 3 thousandths.
Yeah,
Seth Rawls got him by 4 thousandths, 7:03, 7:04, 7:07 for the top 3. Chris Wright ran a 33.63 last lap, which was quite a bit faster, but like I just mentioned, it's so hard for him to get a pass mate on the inside that he's losing time trying to get by Seth, because he's still trying to save his tires. I mean, there's no point in saving your tires just to race them off in one pass. So he's trying to take care of it, as it looks like this I don't know what exactly the fuel window is, but I was thinking if it was a 2-stop race, we'd see a lot more people pitting right now. It must be a 1-stop, and these guys are just trying to undercut the field by 12 or 15 laps.
Yeah, we've only really seen a few guys come down pit road in Daniel Martinez, Mark Murphy, Nathaniel Cherry, and Ray Bracey. A couple others have come down pit road, but of course that was for damage from impact with the wall or other cars. But so far, these guys have decided to stay on track and keep digging, as Trey Eidson remains the race leader over Zach Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger, we did see get a little bit of contact with the outside wall, but still maintaining that 0.2 of a second gap behind Eidson as they go around the number 8 of Robert Smith. Smith on the bottom here, and another car has come down pit road. That is David Dunwoody, as the battle heats up here for third, with Seth Rawls, Chris Wright, and Ethan Stanley all right there going around that number 8 machine of Robert Smith. And just behind them there, as you see just barely in the picture, that is the 99 of Gilberto Javier Gomera, as he's going to take a look on the inside of Stanley and Wright here, trying to get one of his laps back, but that could cause a little bit of frustration, as I think Roethlisberger might have just grabbed the wall once again.
Yeah, losing a lot of time to Trey that last lap. He lost over about 2/10. Chris Wright losing another 10th. I think Chris is the fastest car when he's able to run his line, but it's just not able to do it, as you see Ethan Stanley trying to make a run at Chris.
I did just notice the side of Ethan Stanley's car. I think it just says sponsored in some fancy bright letters. So,
and I believe that's a Pontiac Grand Prix too. Look at that guy.
Looks like something Ryan Gavel might have whipped up on that number.
No, that's better.
Actually,
that's
that
way
number's
better than Gavel's.
That number's too fancy for a Ryan Gavel paint scheme.
The letters.
There's a logo on the hood too.
Yeah, that's way.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it would have just been like a spray paint Q on the hood of that thing.
Yeah, if he was lucky.
Absolutely. As we did see Brandon Ultra come down pit road. He's fallen, I believe, 2 laps down. Ray Bracey back on track. Mark Murphy, Nathaniel Cherry, Robert Smith, Daniel Martinez have all come down pit road. There's Christopher Pfaff right there. Craig Arvanites towards the tail of the field. Brandon Key, Rory Collins, Corey Blevins there as well, with Mark Keeler, Clay Cantrell, William White, Kane Lee, and Ty McIntosh all under a bit of a blanket there, as McIntosh doing a little bit of wall ride there.
Couldn't have gotten any closer than that, yeah?
I was going to say, you got pretty lucky there.
Absolutely. It's just
got a wad of 4 racing for second right now. They're all on top of each other. Ethan Stanley on the outside of Chris Wright. Chris Wright's trying to get to the bottom of Seth. Seth's faster than Zach right now, I think.
Roethlisberger might have a little damage after hitting the wall there.
Yeah, Trey's loving this. Trey ran an 82 to Zach's 96 last lap, so that's just about a 1/10.5 difference, which 1/10.5 doesn't sound like much, but when you do it over a course of 10 laps, it sure adds up pretty fast.
It's hard to see here. I believe Roethlisberger may have a little bit of right front damage. If anything, it's very minimal. I think it's more the tires are starting to wear at this point, almost halfway through the event, and these guys have been go, go, go since the drop of the flag, as this battle is heating up there for 2nd through 5th, as we have Roethlisberger, Seth Rawls, Chris Wright, Ethan Stanley, and not Jay Kaner. Who is that on the outside? The 28 machine.
That's Dunwoody. I don't know what he's doing on the outside.
Dunwoody.
He'd be making a lot more time on the bottom passing these guys right now.
Yeah, Dunwoody just fresh off pit road moments ago, and he's just along for the ride at this point.
Yeah, I can tell you he's really frustrating Chris Wright right now, because Chris Wright would like to be right there, but he's got to let Dunwoody clear him. But if Dunwoody's just going to hang out right there, he's not doing Chris any favors. So I don't know.
Definitely
he needs to
not.
dive it. He's got 40 lap fresher tires. He needs to dive into the bottom and go get him some.
Yeah, definitely. If I was in his situation, I would not be along for the ride with these guys. And just a quick note from the back of the field, Brent Jones, Corey Blevin, Steven Hassett, Mark Keeler have all come down pit road. So the back half of the field is getting their pit stops at around halfway here. As this battle's getting even tighter, Seth Rawls all up in Zach Roethlisberger's rear end as Rawls looking to the inside of the number 93 machine.
Take a dive here. He's going to try and slide him. Zach's going to go back to the bottom. Here comes Dunwoody.
There we go. There's Dunwoody.
I'll go for it now that these guys are racing. Oh, he hit him! Oh, that's how
Seth
easy it is to hook these guys.
Saves it.
And
Great save by Seth Rawls. Chris Wright's going to take advantage of that. He's going to be second place now.
And
wow, what a save.
You know that was not intentional from Roethlisberger.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Definitely
just the closing rate of these cars when you get a nice run like that. But Roethlisberger falling back to fourth. Seth Rawls, what a save there. He's currently finding himself still up there in the top 5. The battle just continues with Roethlisberger and Stanley for third. But now that Chris Wright has been freed of these guys, he does have a bit of lap traffic ahead of him. David Dunwoody running right ahead of him here. And a few other lap cars. Is he going to have the opportunity to catch Trey Eidson before they come down pit road? I don't think so.
No.
But you
unless
do
there's
never
a
know.
mistake made.
Actually,
I think
Eidson just got a little loose there.
Let me pit in here pretty quick. If I was these guys, I'd try and run a little further than halfway, but man, lap 54, 55, be coming in for 4 fresh ones. That extra 5 laps will just buy a little bit more tire life, to where if you need to make a pass, you'll have a little bit extra to give. But Chris Wright, a 10th last lap, 10th and a quarter this lap, he's making some headway into Trey Eidson's lead, and not far behind him is Ethan Stanley making pretty good time as well.
Yeah, Ethan Stanley doing a good job. Go ahead.
I don't want to pull away too far here, boys, but we have some racing going on here right outside of the top 10. It looks like we've got a mixed match of cars that are freshly pitted, cars that are still on the track without pitting yet, and it just got a little dicey going 3 wide, a little contact. But they seem to.
As we watch this, Seth Rawls has brought it down pit road. He's the first of the leaders to pit.
Seth Rawls, Jesse Rasmuth, Hunter Smith, all down pit road here.
Jay Kaner giving a call. He's going to pit this time by.
Here comes Kaner. Roethlisberger as well. Just came down pit road. A little bit of a lockup on pit entry, but that will not impact him too much as Mr. Roethlisberger down pit road. Chris Wright has closed in big time on Trey Eidson. Now
with Ethan Stanley.
Ethan Stanley as well, yes. Those 3 within 0.4 of a second of each other, all running the high line.
And none of them pitting yet. I think Chris is pretty good. He likes to overcut, so I think he'd probably want to try and be the last one in, but yeah, we'll see. They're all running this line. That's the thing, is you can't pass them if you're running the same line. Daniel Martinez on a lot fresher tires. He pitted back on lap 30. So he's already got 23 laps on these tires, and you can tell that even with 30-lap tire advantage, it's still hard to make a pass on the bottom.
It definitely is. There's a couple more guys from the top 10. Dave Carpenter, Rory Collins, Clay Cantrell, all coming down pit road. But the battle is on for the race lead, just over 1/10 of a second, separating Wright and Eidson. Another 10th back to Stanley, and then 8 seconds is the gap back to Jess Story, running in 4th right now. Michael Hossack right behind him. Daniel Martinez right now has a great vantage point of this battle for the race lead. Is Chris Wright right on the back bumper of Eidson. Now Stanley back on the rear bumper of Wright, as these guys are putting on a show for the race lead currently. It'll be interesting to see if they all come down at the same time to try to stay on the same strategy, but I don't know, as I thought that lap car was about to go 3 wide with these guys. Actually, I believe that's Mark Murphy. Yes, it is. Murphy currently running in the 10th spot, just ahead of our race leaders, battling side by side with Daniel Martinez. Here comes Christopher Wright. I don't think anyone's ever called him Christopher, but here's Christopher Wright on the bottom of Trey Eidson. Now Ethan Stanley, Chris Wright comes down pit road. He gets down nicely there as Eidson and Stanley battling
These two will
for
pit
the
next
race
lap,
lead.
I think. I don't think they want to give up too much time on Chris, just with especially after they watched Daniel Martinez on 30-lap fresher tires try and get by him. But Ethan is
That's ballsy. That's ballsy.
That was not a hole. That he made it a hole, and at least Trey is going to pit this lap. I don't know if Ethan's going to, but I feel like no. I guess he's not.
Unless he's pulling a Quinn Half here, but that was insanely ballsy from Ethan Stanley right there.
It was
to whip it up to the high line like that, but kudos to him. As our current top 5 with pit strategy, our pit cycle underway is Stanley, Eidson, Pfaff, Murphy, and Martinez. Top 5.
Pfaff still has not pitted. He's 25 he's pitting now. Looks like he's 25 seconds behind the 2 leaders, and then Mark Murphy and Daniel Martinez have both already pitted, and behind them it's just kind of a mix of people that either pitted later than them and have been passed by them over the course of the pit cycle, or guys that they were already ahead of. Which, I mean, Martinez
did just get the wall right there, though. Currently running in the 4th position. Grabs a piece of the outside wall once again. I think that one did some damage.
This time.
Ethan Stanley, our race leader, going to come down pit road. Trey Eidson going to remain on the race course here.
Seth Rawls just got a lot of the wall in 3 and 4.
Actually, Eidson coming down as well. Seth Rawls, like you mentioned, did get a piece of the wall here. Zach Roethlisberger makes a move on him for the 7th position. This time, by your race leader will be Marf Murphy.
Marf Murphy. Mark, I'm calling you that for the rest of time, just so you know.
Mark Murphy.
I mean, you almost had it. You were like 2 phonemes away from having it perfect.
That's fantastic. Mark Murphy, your race leader, over Daniel Martinez, Nathaniel Cherry, Jesse Rasmus, and Zach Roethlisberger. We are lap 60 of 100 here on the Elite Racing Network. This is the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series Kansas 150 season opener. We're going to send it over to our friends at TA Services for a quick message, and we'll be right back. And we are back here on the Elite Racing Network. It is the Kansas 150 here in the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series. That was TA Services. Next up, we are going to talk about Pit Pass Network, the presenting sponsor of this series here. Pit Pass Network is your new home for all things NASCAR. Check out pitpassnetwork.com for news, reviews, interviews, and more, including from our race driver, Chris Wright here, currently running in the top 10. We also have to give a shout out to Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. Check them out today. And our newest premier partner here at Elite is the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly Gateway, is a motorsports facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of the St. Louis, Missouri Arches, close to the Gateway Arch there, hosting the NASCAR Cup Series, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and NTT IndyCar Series. Check out the Worldwide Technology Raceway today for some great racing action. And speaking of great racing action, back down on the racetrack, it is currently Jesse Rasmus actually making a move on Mark Murphy. That's right, Mark Murphy for the race lead here. And just behind them, Jay Kaner, Zach Roethlisberger, Seth Rawls, Chris Wright, Nathaniel Cherry, Ethan Stanley, Brent Jones, and Trey Eidson, the top 10.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see how the tires wear, because Roethlisberger, we saw him and Eidson battle a lot that first run, and Eidson's got 8 seconds on, or not Eidson, Roethlisberger has 8 seconds on Eidson at the moment. Rawls right behind Roethlisberger on a little fresher tires. Chris Wright is right behind them on a lot fresher tires. Chris Wright, I don't know what he did on pit road, but it seems like he was able to get in and out a little bit quicker. He only undercut Ethan Stanley by 2 or 3 laps, and he's got him by a solid 3 seconds. So we'll see. Ethan Stanley's got 36 laps to get that 3.5 seconds back, but easier said than done. And Chris Wright seemed to be the best at saving tires over that first long run. I guess Ethan was right behind him too, but running that bottom seemed to be the way to go for Chris Wright.
Absolutely, and we cannot count out guys like Jesse Rasmus, Jay Kaner. Both these guys did pit around lap 50. Obviously, we do see a bit more speed right now out of Roethlisberger and Chris Wright working their way up through the field, but Jesse Rasmus doing a nice job taking advantage of this development series to have a chance to run out front. Actually, another driver, Ray Bracey, coming down pit road. We saw him win a truck race in 2022B in the Smoking Gobbler Truck Series over on the Elite Racing Network. So it's another opportunity for guys like that to continue building on what they've developed over the past couple seasons and work their way up towards being a threat every single week. As currently, just to take a quick note here, biggest mover in the race with 35 laps to go is Nathaniel Cherry, as he has gained 20 positions from the 29th starting spot. So great job by Nathaniel Cherry in that number 33/13 machine, currently running in the 9th spot.
Yeah, we'll see how he's able to do these last 35 or so laps. I think he pitted quite a bit earlier than the rest of the field, but I mean, he started 29th. So I'd say anything in the top 20 would be a win, considering we haven't had any cautions to help bunch this field up.
Yeah, and actually just a quick note on that, Nathaniel Cherry is on the oldest tires in the field. He pit on lap number 32. So he is 35 laps into his run right now. Definitely going to see him back down pit road before the end of this one. But out front, it's Jesse Rasmus leading Jay Kaner by 0.7 of a second and 1.8 seconds. And back you find Zach Roethlisberger just behind him, Chris Wright, and Ethan Stanley. That top 5 is very interesting. A grab bag of drivers from new in elite to old in elite to winners and guys trying to find that first win. So very cool to see all these guys up here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed Zach Roethlisberger has not made up a whole lot of time on Jesse Rasmus in the lead. I wonder if he has used and abused those tires just enough, as Chris Wright's already coming up on him here, and he's got probably close to about 10 lap fresher tires in him.
So Chris Wright did pit 4 laps after Roethlisberger. Felt like a lot longer,
Yeah,
but it was not. As just to note, Zach Roethlisberger and Jay Kaner both pit on lap 51. Jesse Rasmus lap 50. Ethan Stanley lap 58, and Chris Wright lap 55. So just a few laps difference between these guys. Just to know from the back of the field, Ty McIntosh has come down pit road. Gilberto Javier Gomera has just left pit road. So I would expect to see Nathaniel Cherry down pit road shortly, as his 2 teammates just made their pit stop. And as I say that, here comes Nathaniel Cherry. So I did something right today.
Yeah, I don't know. People do it every week. In the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, Truck Series, I'm talking about Elite. They try for this 2-stop strategy on these obvious 1-stop races, and it just never works out. I think I've seen it work out one time in all of my days of racing, and that was at Richmond, which is obviously a lot different than Kansas. So I don't know if they were just hoping and praying for a caution, but I don't know. It just never seems to work out, as you see guys like Daniel Martinez and Nathaniel Cherry, who had decent pace, that are going to end up finishing in the mid-20s of this race if we go green.
You know, the unfortunate part for these guys is they've taken these kind of out of left field pit strategies, and now they're stuck with it because they are lapped down. We have not seen a caution flag yet. Of course, we may still see one in this race, but as we get closer and closer to the end, chances of that happening get a little slimmer and slimmer. As just a quick note up front, Chris Wright continues to charge towards the front, but Zach Roethlisberger, Ethan Stanley, both right there with him as well, as they're looking to make a move on Jay Kaner for the second spot. And I believe once they get clear of Kaner, it should be a fairly quick march for them up to Jesse Rasmus to battle for that race lead. But again, great job by Jesse doing what he can do to try to stay out front with just 28 laps remaining in this event here, as Chris Wright just about got a piece of that outside wall as he slid up in front of Jay Kaner.
Yeah, not too far behind these guys is Trey Eitzen, who was one of the last to pit, one of the leaders when they went to pit road. Granted, he's got to pass all these guys too, but I mean, it's only been 10 laps and he's made up 3 or 4 seconds on these guys. So a clear tire advantage is he's probably gonna pass Roethlisberger here the next lap or two, and those two are nearly identical in pace that first 40 laps of the run.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see these guys falling a little bit further back. In the beginning, it was all Eidson and Roethlisberger at the front of the field, and now they're kind of struggling to stay inside that top 5.
Well, Eidson's going forward, Roethlisberger's going backwards at the moment. So I expect Eidson to have a say in who wins this race. I think Chris Wright, now that he's clear for second, is going to go get Rasmus, but can't say enough about Rasmus. He's done a really good job, especially once he's got out front. He's been pretty smooth, led quite a few laps, and he's been in the Elite Series for 2 or 3 seasons now, and a fairly respected competitor, and someone you always expect to be in contention for top 10s and top 5s.
Yeah, for sure. You know, another guy to keep an eye on here is Ethan Stanley. I believe he was the second to last car to come down under that green flag pit stop. And he's right there behind Chris Wright. He's got a little bit fresher tires. And, you know, Rasmus probably isn't going to make him... He's not going to be that easy to pass for the lead. And so it'll be interesting to see if Ethan Stanley can take advantage of Chris Wright having some trouble, if there is trouble, to get around Jesse Rasmus.
And Trey Eidson's made quick work of Roethlisberger and Jay Kaner. He's up into the 4th position as they come to the line this time. He's less than a second and a half behind the lead, and we saw it when they went to pit road. It was Chris Wright, Ethan Stanley, and Trey Eidson, and I think that's going to be your 3 drivers that are going to be contending for this win here in the last 10 or 15 laps of this race, as long as we are able to stay green.
Yeah, and it looks like Jesse Rasmus had a problem getting around the lap car. He got up in the groove or out of the groove, and Chris Wright's going around him right now for the lead. So Chris Wright made quick work of Jesse Rasmus, and now here comes Ethan Stanley coming up to second, trying to get around Rasmus.
And I know Ethan Stanley and Trey Eidson have fresher tires than Chris Wright, but they still have to pass Chris Wright. And as someone that's tried to pass Chris Wright many, many times, it is not an easy thing to do. So, I mean, even with a little bit of a tire advantage we've seen with the way this track hasn't really widened out, at least for passing. You see these guys running the bottom, but they have the whole corner to use up out on exit. When they don't have that whole corner to use up on exit, really hard for someone to make a pass, and that outside seems to prevail more times than not.
Yeah, for sure. Robert, who are you looking at here that might be able to close this one out right now with just over 20 to go?
You know, I'm seeing a lot of pace out of Chris Wright, but I'm looking at that 91 of Ethan Stanley right now. I think he has a bit of an upper edge on the 42 of Wright with just 22 laps remaining. Obviously, like Tate mentioned, he was one of the later cars to pit. He has the freshest tires in the top 20 at this point. First car with newer tires than Ethan Stanley is, I believe, Daniel Martinez back in the 20th spot. So definitely a bit of an upper hand here for Ethan Stanley at this point with just 21 remaining here. It's going to be interesting to see if he can capitalize. But again, like Tate mentioned, Chris Wright, not the easiest to pass.
Yeah, and Chris Wright almost didn't protect the top like he should have coming out of 4 on the previous lap. He got Ethan Stanley right up behind him going into turn 1. I can't imagine he planned to do that, but right now he's doing a pretty good job defensively to hold him off for now.
I think the advantage that Trey Eidson has with racing these guys is he's never raced these guys. He doesn't know their tendencies. he's going to be just as aggressive as he would with anybody else. And I think that's the attitude you're going to have if you're going to get by Chris Wright in these closing laps.
As we see,
loose
Isaac
behind
loose.
Rasmus. He's driving that thing. Can't question that.
You know, for a guy like Eidson, this is his opportunity to show the elite leadership that he can compete with these guys and run them very clean. He's new to the league, and he's looking for his opportunity to move up to the Cup Series and as well as the Grand National Series. So this is a good opportunity for him, but that little bit of looseness there set him back just a little bit as Jesse Rasmus was able to get a little bit of an advantage, but Eidson now coming back up to the rear bumper of that number 70 machine. So that battle continues for third, and the battle continues for the race lead. Chris Wright and Ethan Stanley, about 2.5 tenths of a second separate those two for first and second, as they are going to be coming up on a lap car here shortly, which may come into play, but hopefully that driver knows enough just to get up out of the way and let these guys head on through.
Yeah, I'm looking at Eidson try and get around Rasmus. He is really having a tough time with how fresh the tires.
He's going to try to get the outside. It's not going to work. He's just going to show it. He's going to show it and hope that Jesse gives it to him. And Jesse's going to give him the outside, at least on entry, which I think will set him up for a run. Yeah, it's set him up. Oh, Rasmus got loose, and that looseness is going to cost Trey a lot of time and the position, because he was gonna get that position if Rasmus doesn't get that loose condition off of turn 2.
Yeah,
another big run here though.
Laps. He's gotta pass him here.
Yeah, he needs to do it the next lap if he's gonna have a chance. As we just got 15 to go, I think.
Still 16 laps remaining here in the Kansas 150. It's Chris Wright leading Ethan Stanley. We're currently having our eyes on that battle for third. Jesse Rasmus, Trey Eidson, with Zach Roethlisberger just behind them, rounding out the top 5. He's fallen back just a little bit. He was running in first and second for a fair bit, as Eidson looks like he was about to give the bumper there to Jesse Rasmus. Now looking to the inside of the number 70 machine. Trey Eidson does currently hold the position, but not by much over Rasmus. Gonna get a little bit of an upper edge here.
He's gonna try and clear himself here. Nope, not gonna be able to do it. Yeah, he's gonna have to give Jesse the bumper. I mean, it's Jesse's doing a really good job of holding him off here, but
absolutely,
Trey's got those tires, and I think he'd be able to have a little extra pace with that clean air to be able to catch those guys, but he's lost over a second trying to pass Jesse Rasmus right now.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, Zach Roethlisberger seems to be closing in on that battle as well for that third position. So if that battle continues between Rasmus and Eidson, it may invite Roethlisberger back into the battle for the final podium position. Is Eidson actually going to back off a little bit here? Maybe try to cool those tires down and charge up for another run on the 70 machine, as you do see him closing right back up here on exit of the corner. But again, Roethlisberger continuing to close in on this battle.
Looks like Ethan Stanley is starting to make a charge
right
back on Chris
up
Wright.
Yeah, the 91 of Ethan Stanley on the rear bumper of the 42 of Chris Wright. Just ahead of them, Brandon Ultra, one of our lap cars here. Brandon currently running in the 15th position, last car on the lead lap. So these guys have done a great job lapping through the field. There's Ultra just ahead of them, Steven Hassett, as Chris Wright slides up in front of Brandon Ultra there. Ethan Stanley just looking for his opportunity. Seth Rawls has just come down pit road. Rawls actually was a lap down now, currently sitting in 20th. That's a big fall for him. As now the battle continues with Eidson and Rasmus. Eidson actually cleared Rasmus this time.
Good. A little too late on that, I think, for Eidson, but these two in front of him get to race, and he might be able to make that time up. He's got a second and a half.
Ethan Stanley gets
slow here. Big run.
What were you saying about racing?
On Chris Wright.
Oh, and Chris Wright.
Two lap cars. Yeah, there's 2 lap cars there. Chris is going to have to hope. Yeah, that lap car is going to hold up Ethan.
He's going to get a run right back here, it looks like.
Yeah, he's not gonna have the tires to get it done though, I don't think.
3 wide right here, heading up to our blimp currently flown by Chad Frankenfield. We have Chris Wright on the bottom, Ethan Stanley on the top. That is lap car Steven Hassett currently running 14th just behind them. Chris Wright does not want to let this thing go. 10 laps remaining in the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series Kansas 150 here on the Elite Racing Network. Chris Wright looking to the high side of Ethan Stanley. Ethan Stanley holding the bottom, doing a nice job. Stanley looks pretty darn good right now.
Yeah, he's the betting favorite right now.
He's taking that low line.
Not able to gain a whole lot of time that last time by. He actually lost a little bit of time to Ethan Stanley. We'll see what the lap times are this time. Ethan Stanley comes across the line and will run a 33.55. Chris Wright is 64 and Eidson is 60. So Ethan Stanley half a tenth faster than Trey Eidson and a full tenth quicker than Chris Wright. So gonna be tough sled if anyone's gonna beat this 91 machine.
Eidson kind of running on his own at this point, 2 seconds back. And just behind him, it is Jesse Rasmussen and Zach Roethlisberger battling for the 4th position. Just outside the top 5, Jay Kaner, Jess Story, David Carpenter, guys, currently running in the 8th position, up 24 spots. Heck of a run by Carpenter up until this point here. Michael Hossack in 9th and Hunter Smith in 10th. So this right here is exactly why we made this series, for guys like David Carpenter, for guys like Michael Hossack, Jesse Rasmus, to really show what they can do in this kind of series, and they've put on a heck of a show here tonight.
And Ethan Stanley, I mean, he's been a perennial favorite there in the truck series that Elite puts on. He's made the championship 5 the last 2 seasons, just hasn't been able to quite get it done. But I mean, look who he's racing. He was racing Scott Crump, Matthew Weeks, Ethan Burrell. I mean, these guys are no slouches. As a lap
Clay
car
Cantrell in the wall right there.
Dale Jr. out there, he's trying to get that caution that Chris Wright's looking for, but no dice there off of 2, as Chris Wright's going to get a pretty good run if he doesn't hit the apron off of turn 4. See what he can do with it. Yeah, the draft in these cars aren't real big. If this was the next gen, Chris Wright would pull right up behind Ethan Stanley, or the truck for that matter. But in these ARCA cars, the draft really doesn't mean a whole lot. Even at tracks like Indianapolis or Michigan, they don't suck up like some of the other stock cars on the service do. So that's aiding Ethan Stanley a little bit right now, being able to keep this little bit of a gap between himself and Chris Wright.
As they come across the line, 5 laps to go here in the Kansas 150. On the high side right there, lap car of Gilberto Javier Gomera. Chris Wright looking to the inside of Ethan Stanley here. Ethan Stanley continues to have that upper hand. Currently 0.3 of a second over Chris Wright. Chris Wright right now trying to think of what he can do to get by that number 91 machine. And, you know, that ticker keeps showing him falling further and further behind. He could be recharging, getting ready for that final push, or he's used everything he has.
Yeah, there's no recharging at this point. There's 4 to go. Ethan Stanley's putting some time. Chris Wright, he was trying to just show himself, get himself outside of the mirror of Ethan Stanley and make Ethan think about what he was doing. Trying to force him into a mistake. Obviously, didn't pan out for him.
Oh, Eidson in the wall.
Stanley cleared another 3/10 on Wright that last time by, and yeah, Eidson's been really struggling.
Oh, someone's getting hit in the back end right there behind him.
As you can see, Eidson in the wall once again. That allows Jesse Rasmus to move up to the 3rd position. Zach Roethlisberger up to 4th there on the bottom. Jay Kaner just a bit behind them. Not close enough to take advantage, but with 3 laps remaining, Ethan Stanley holds a 0.6 of a second lead over Christopher Wright. And just behind him, about 3 seconds back, Jesse Rasmus, currently running 3rd. Two laps remaining as Ethan Stanley comes across the line. Chris Wright, I think, has run out of time unless we get a caution here on this lap. I was not expecting these guys to be able to go flag to flag in the season opener. I know Jonathan Cutlip, our race control, was anticipating carnage tonight, and I'm very glad that we were able to prove him wrong here as Ethan Stanley comes off of turn number 4. White flag in the air, 1 lap remaining in the Kansas 150 here. Season opener in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series on the Elite Racing Network. It is Ethan Stanley currently leading.
Ethan Stanley. He's made 32 starts in the Elite Truck Series. He's got 17 top 5. 17. That's a over 50%. And he's never won a race in the Elite Racing League until tonight.
As we send it back up to the flagman Barney here, let's take a look. Here comes Ethan Stanley, first-time winner in the Elite Racing League. Ethan Stanley picks up the season opener, the series opener, in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Ethan Stanley first, Chris Wright second, Jesse Rasmus in third, Zach Roethlisberger, Trey Eidson rounding out the top 5, Jay Kaner, David Carpenter. You know, I'm proud of Dave Carpenter. He gained 25 spots in this race. What a drive for him. Jess Story finishes 8th, Hunter Smith 9th, and my fellow Canadian Michael Hossack there in 10th. And rounding out the top, the lead lap finishers, Brent Jones and Brandon Key. Great job by everyone here. Ethan Stanley burning it down, and he's earned that.
For the first time. It looks like he kind of knows what he's doing, too.
He must have practiced a little bit.
So, this is his first win in the Elite Stock Car Series. He actually won twice in the Elite Formula 1 Series that the league put on this last year. But, man, that's a lot of starts to come so close without a win. 74 starts in Elite Racing League. 34 top 5s, and this is his first win in a stock car, and he's deserved quite a few wins through the last couple seasons, and it's good to see him finally get that checkered flag.
He's just going to let the car sit there, let that engine burn out. He's pumped right now. You know it. As we will await our top 3 finishers. I do know we have Ethan Stanley waiting in the booth, or in the waiting room. So you know what? Why don't we bring him up now, get that raw emotion from a first-time Stock Car Series winner here in the Elite Racing League. Ethan Stanley, it's Robert Hill Jr., Tate Lytle, and Wyatt Knadle up here in the Elite Racing Network booth. Do you got a copy of it with us, winner? I don't think he has a copy.
He's drinking a cold one right now. He doesn't care about us.
Well, all right. We'll send Ethan Stanley back to the waiting room. Let's bring in Chris Wright, our second place finisher. I know he loves to talk. Chris Wright, it is Robert Hill Jr., Tate Lytle, and Wyatt Knadle up here in the Elite Racing Network booth. You got a copy on us, buddy?
Yeah, I got you guys. How was it?
It was one heck of a race between yourself and Ethan Stanley. How do you feel finishing? Obviously, a little bit short tonight, but how do you feel overall about your race tonight?
I thought it was a lot of fun. These cars, you know, I hate that some of these other guys like Tate sitting up here tonight can't run these cars. These cars are so much fun and so much fun to drive. Yeah, I do. Come on, Tate. It's fun.
Yeah, it looked like he was at a good time. Earlier in the race, I kind of made a comment about you running the bottom, losing time, but hopefully that the tires that you saved running the bottom would pay dividends. And it looked like it did until you got up to those top 2 or 3, and you kind of had to wait for them to make a mistake just because of how hard it was to pass on the bottom. Can you just explain to the viewer at home simply how difficult it is to make a pass on the bottom, especially when you're on equal tires?
Well, Tate, as you know, I am not very patient, but it was all about being patient, knowing that you were faster than those guys and just had to wait. You know, you could get alongside them, and you're working for 3 or 4 inches each corner. Like you said, I ran the bottom knowing that it was going to save the tire. And especially the last 10, 15 laps, we were able to drive right up to it. I knew at that point of the first run there, about the last 20 laps before we all pitted, I knew that Ethan was just kind of judging off of me. I could tell he was saving tires, so I knew that was going to be the guy I was going to have to beat at the end of the race if we went green.
Absolutely. Wyatt, you got anything for our runner-up here tonight, Chris Wright?
Yeah, Chris, great showing tonight. Second place is nothing to be ashamed of. You know, you led some laps there late. How important do you think those extra few laps that Ethan had on his tires there from that pit sequence was crucial to him ending up winning this race? Did you have anything else that you could do to hold him off, or was your stuff pretty much used up?
I felt like there was a bunch of lap cars that we were getting to, and whichever one of us was leading when we got through those cars was going to be the guy that won. Because once you're the leader and you don't have to change your line, he was a little better. I don't know if it was the tires. He saved really well too. He didn't really try to pass me at the end of that first run. I don't know if he could have or not. He was kind of just sitting there judging himself off of me. So I don't know. I know that maybe I should have ran the top a little more than I did early in the race, because when it was time to go up there and run, I never did get quite all the way to the wall. I just wasn't comfortable enough up there to get all the way to the wall. I just kind of straddled that seam.
So Chris Wright, obviously big participant here in the development series. We hope to see big things out of you in your elite future after a runner-up finish here in the opener. But before we let you go here tonight, who do you got to thank for helping you out tonight, and maybe shout out your sponsors for the upcoming season here in Elite as well?
Well, yeah, of course, you guys. I mean, I hope it felt like a good race. It felt like there was lots of battles at the front all the way through. For it to be caution-free, it was a lot of fun. Kansas was a lot of fun to be able to run different lines. You could abuse your tires and whatnot. But yeah, shout out to you guys, everybody here at Elite Racing Network, and of course, everybody on the car. Everybody back at Lake Norman, everybody at Pit Pass Network, Kendall No Player Designs, everybody that helps make this thing happen, and of course the series sponsor, Pit Pass Network. So hopefully at some point this season we might be able to put the Pit Pass Network car in victory lane.
That's all we can hope for you, my friend. But congratulations on your runner-up finish here tonight. We'll let you get back to celebrating with your team, and we can't wait to see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
That was Christopher Wright, our runner-up here tonight at Kansas. Next up, let's go ahead and bring in our third-place finisher, Jesse Rasmus. Jesse, it's Robert Hill Jr., Tate Lytle, and Wyatt Knadle up in the booth. You got a copy on us?
Yeah, I got you. How are you guys?
We're doing pretty darn good up here, Jesse. Obviously, we saw you do a great job out there, leading a bunch of laps, running top 5, and you brought it home in third. How good does that feel to start off the season?
I mean, first thing I want to say is I got to apologize, Daniel Martinez. I pulled a slide job on me going in the 1, and I didn't check up as much as I probably should have, and I kind of shuffled him into the wall. But I mean, it's kind of a racing deal. A little more race sense on my mind, maybe a little bit better. But run was good. I probably should have waited an extra couple of laps before I pitted. I think that hurt me in the long run, as far as tire fall off towards like the last 10 or 15 laps or so. But overall, I'm happy with the car, how it ran, and obviously a great start to the season so far.
I mean, a really good run. I kind of pointed out during the broadcast that you've been in the Elite Racing League for, I don't know if it's 2, 3, 4 seasons now. Seems like quite a while, and you've had some good runs, but Kansas seemed to suit your driving style there, especially toward the end of the runs. I was impressed with how well you're able to keep the car underneath you with a little bit older tires there at the end of the race. It was actually able to get back by a few cars to get the podium, and I just want to know, what was kind of your mindset going into this ARCA race that would maybe differ from, a normal Xfinity or a Cup race?
I'm not really sure if anything changed in my mindset, honestly. It's just been more of over the past 2 seasons. Obviously, I've had some good runs going, but there was always something, whether it be my own mistake on pit road or something along those lines that would kind of screw me up. But just kind of more of a race awareness now, where I kind of get the feel of how everything needs to go. So I kind of tend to back it up a little bit earlier, going into corners and stuff earlier in the race, just to save my tires for the longer run. It seems to be helping out a lot. Biggest thing, there was no incidents here to really avoid, but that's usually my downfall. I get involved in every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Tate, for taking my question. I just want to say congratulations, Jesse. You did a great job tonight bringing it home third. And, all right, Robert, now it's your turn.
All right, Jesse. Obviously, again, congratulations on your third place finish. I was really impressed with your run and the way you were able to stay out front there for as long as you did. I mean, this series was made for guys like you that maybe don't always get the opportunity to run at the front in those top 3 series and really build some confidence, build some experience being in those situations before the upcoming Premier Series. And I'm really excited to see what you can do for the rest of this season here in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. But before we let you go here tonight, is there anyone you want to thank for helping you out with this ARCA season and any partners for your upcoming season in Cup Trucks Grand National?
I mean, first off, I just want to thank Elite Racing League and everybody here involved in productions, racing, adminning. I know I've had my tussles here and there on voice chat with the admins, but I mean, overall, it's a great group of people. Probably one of the only reasons why I stay here. But yeah, I want to Brandon Ultra, Jay Kaner, those guys there, they're awesome. We hang out quite a bit during the off seasons and personal life, and we kind of all communicate with each other. Actually, going to be on a team with them in Xfinity. As far as my other partners, it's really up in the air for Truck and Cup at this point. So I guess we'll kind of play it by ear for the next couple of weeks and figure out what's going on there.
Well, congratulations on your third place finish here tonight, Jesse. We'll let you go, get back to relaxing and celebrating a great finish here tonight. But can't wait to see what you can do next week.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Jesse Rasmus, our third place finisher here tonight. Next, we're going to talk to the man of the hour, Ethan Stanley. Ethan Stanley, it's Robert Hill Jr., Tate Lytle, and Wyatt Knadle up in the booth. Do you got a copy?
Yes, I do this time.
Well, we're glad to hear you now. Congratulations on the victory. Tate mentioned that this was your first victory in Elite in a stock car series. You've won in the open wheel side, but never in the stock car. So how good does it feel to get it done here tonight?
I say it's about time. I mean, I've been so close so many times. Been up in the booth plenty of times, gotten plenty of interviews, just never worked out quite. Just like last season at Vegas in the trucks, I think I lost by a couple thousands.
Yeah, I was looking up the stats there because I know I've raced with you a little bit in the truck series. I'm like, man, he's always up front, but I don't know if he's ever won one of those races. So I was looking up some stats, and I'm like, man, he's got 2 Formula One wins, but in 3 or 4 runner-ups in the trucks, but he's never won one. So good to see you finally in victory lane in the stock car. It's definitely been a long time deserved for sure, but I mean, you had some stiff competition even in this driver development series. You had Trey Eidson and Zach Roethlisberger, 2 guys that have shown success in a couple other leagues, and then you had to fight off Chris Wright there at the end. How'd you make it? How'd you make it work for you, man? Those last 15, 20 laps had to have been pretty stressful.
Yeah, honestly, it was all about the first stint. Just automatically went into tire saving mode. Just hugged the bottom, and was able to run it really long. So I just had the tires at the end to get him. If we stopped at the same time, I think he might have had me.
Yeah, we noticed you were being very patient there on that first run right behind him. And as you guys worked your way up into the top 5 and then, up in the top 3, really, things kind of worked your way with the way traffic and pit stops went. And then, you were one of the last people to pit and it worked out for you. Do you think that couple lap difference on tires is really what made the difference?
I mean, it's not 100%, but definitely helps, especially if you're trying to run the bottom where you use a lot of front right. Because later on in the run, you can just kind of go to the top, and that's more rear tires than anything.
Absolutely. And Ethan, obviously, again, congratulations on the victory. It's great to see someone new picking up a victory in the stock car side of things. And do you plan on running the whole season here in the ARCA side of things with us and going for that first championship in the stock car?
We'll see if the scheduling works out, but considering I've been really consistent in every other series up until about playoffs, since there's no playoffs in this, I might even have a chance at it. I'm gonna just see what I can run. Gonna be trying to run every series in Elite this season. It's gonna be definitely a big task.
It's definitely a big task, something that will put a little bit of wear and tear on you. But before I let you go, Ethan, is there anyone you want to thank for helping you with the win tonight, and maybe shout out your partners for the upcoming Elite seasons?
Yeah, shout out to my team, Climb the Threat, all my teammates, of course, all my sponsors that are coming back for the season, 3Chi, Glitch Energy, Killer Jerky, and Esports Furniture. And shout out to you guys for making this happen. Big broadcast. Originally, we weren't even supposed to have a broadcast. And yeah, just glad you guys are putting this on and doing a great job.
Well, we thank you for that. We congratulate you on the victory, and we look forward to catching up with you again next week, hopefully with another victory.
Yeah, we'll see. Definitely plan on being there for Montreal at least. We'll see.
I think you're going to be a contender there for sure, so can't wait to see what you can do.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, that was Ethan Stanley, our winner here tonight in the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series opener. What a race, guys. 100 laps, flag to flag, no cautions. What do you guys think of how things went down tonight?
I mean, you had some comers and goers, different strategies kind of helped that. But you had guys like Chris Wright and our eventual winner Ethan Stanley that kind of saved and rode it out. And then you had guys like Trey Eidson and Zach Roethlisberger that pushed hard at the beginning. And then right between them, you had Jesse Rasmus, who kind of came out of nowhere there in the last 20 laps or probably 30 laps of that race. But good to see Ethan Stanley finally get a win. Obviously been a long time coming, and I think he's going to enjoy this one for sure. But any last second thoughts from you, Wyatt?
Yeah, I think the guys that benefited the most tonight from that run in green really was our race control. Joshua Personette and John, of course, and I bet they were kind of sitting back just eating some popcorn. They had a pretty easy go of it tonight.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Obviously an easy night for them. And just quickly before I give my final thoughts, I do want to quickly run through the final race results here. Obviously, Ethan Stanley picking up the victory with Chris Wright, Jesse Rasmus, Zach Roethlisberger, and Trey Eidson rounding out the top 5. Jay Kaner, David Carpenter, Jess Story, Hunter Smith, and Michael Hosack rounding out the top 10, with Brent Jones, Brandon Key, Mark Murphy, Stephen Hassett, Mark Keeler rounding out the top 15, Clay Cantrell, Daniel Martinez, and Nathaniel Cherry, Ty McIntosh, Ray Bracey rounding out the top 20, and then rounding out the field, Brandon Ultra, William White, Christopher Pfaff, David Dunwoody, Gilberto Javier Gomera, Seth Rawls, who we saw running up front early on, but he ended up getting in the outside wall there, Rory Collins, Robert Smith, Corey Blevins, Kane Lee, Craig Arvanites, Jordan Owens, and Ethan Harrison. That is our 33-car field that we had here tonight. My final words here tonight is obviously thank you to Pit Pass Network for coming on board to present this series. I have to thank TA Services and Blue Egg Marketing, as well as Worldwide Technology Raceway, for being our premier partners here in Elite. Thank you to Chad Frankenfield for allowing us to put this series on. Thank you to David Huckleberry for helping out with all the broadcast side of things. The administrative team in the PPN ARCA series, Jonathan Cutlip, Joshua Personette, Wyatt Knadle, myself, and Chad Frankenfield, of course. Thank you to Tate and Wyatt for joining me up in the booth, and thank you for everyone for joining us at home. We will be back Saturday at 11:45 a.m. for the 6-hour race at Indianapolis, benefiting the Dale Jr. Foundation. I believe Wyatt will be on the broadcast. I'll be on the broadcast at some point. And Tate, are you going to be joining us at all on Saturday?
If I'm on the sim Saturday, I'll be running the race. So hopefully, me and Ethan Burrell can have a decent run. I haven't really practiced too much for it, and I haven't really talked to Ethan a whole lot about it. So I'm assuming we're still good to race. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be running, but hopefully.
So Tate might be here. You might see him, you might not. But you'll definitely see Wyatt and myself, and I hope to see all of you there Saturday, 11:45 a.m. here on the Elite Racing Network. But that will do it for us here tonight. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday night, same time.